we are celebrating Veterans Day 2013, and I thought it's appropriate to bring people together to talk about what the problems facing the veterans community, what we have accomplished, and where we want to go. And I want to thank, I won't list all of the organizations, the veterans organizations who are here today and we have been working with, but it's virtually everybody. And as I say publicly and privately, I can't do my job. The Senate Veterans Committee can't do its job unless we are listening to the veterans community who are out in the field, who are every day talking to veterans and learning what the problems are facing the VA and the veterans community. So I just want to thank all of the veterans community for being here today, and to specifically thank Lou and Ray and Joe, who are going to say a few words after I'm finished. One of the things that I've learned since I have been chairman last year of the committee is that I think people really don't fully understand the enormous sacrifices made by people who put their lives on the line to defend this country. And I'm not just talking about the 500,000 Americans who, since World War II, have died in action. But I am talking about the millions and millions who came home from war hurt in one way or another. And sometimes it's losing an arm or a leg or eyesight or hearing, but other times the wounds are invisible, but as painful as any other wound. And I think what people don't appreciate is that as a result just of Iraq and Afghanistan, we are talking today about hundreds of thousands of men and women who have come home from war, who are suffering with PTSD and traumatic brain injury. Their lives have been radically disrupted. And it's not only their lives, it's the lives of their families, their wives, their husbands, and their kids, and their parents. And that's something that we should never forget. And it's often said, and I think it's true, that the most difficult decision of a member of Congress is to vote whether one sends our young men and women off to war or not. But what we should also remember is that when we send people off to war, that the cost of that war is much, much greater than the planes and the bombs and the tanks and everything else. It's what happens to the huge numbers of folks who come home and what happens to them 50 years later and 70 years later when they're still suffering from the wounds of war. And if we're going to send people off to war, then we have the absolute moral obligation to make sure that we will provide for those people who have been wounded in war for the remainder of their lives. I want to touch on some of the areas where I think the VA itself does a poor job in talking about some of their accomplishments. And while God only knows there are many problems there, there are some good things that the VA has done, and there's some very good things in recent years that Congress has done. Let me just touch on some of the issues where we've made some progress and some of the areas where I think we have to go. One of the most significant pieces of legislation ever passed in the history, modern history of the United States Congress was the GI Bill passed in, I think it was 1944. And that gave an entire generation of working class young men and women the opportunity to go to college, and they, in a significant way, paved the way for the United States to grow economically. It was a wonderful piece of legislation, and as all of you know, we have tried to emulate that with the post-9/11 GI education bill. It's a huge step forward for a lot of young men and women in this country who have served in the military and for family members. There are problems remaining, as we all know, and we have introduced legislation which passed committee which begins to address those problems, making sure that veterans will be able to get into the colleges that they choose at a cost they can afford. A couple of years ago, 3 years ago, we passed the Caregivers Act, a huge piece of legislation, enormously important. You have people who are staying home right now, orphan wives, sisters, brothers, who are taking care of disabled vets, getting virtually no support at all from the federal government. The Caregivers Act, I think, took us a long step forward in helping the veterans and those families financially and in terms of giving them the training and the tools they need to do what is a very, very difficult job. In my view, that program has been successful. I want to see it expanded beyond the 9/11 group of veterans to all veterans in this country and all of their families. One of the areas that there has been a whole lot of discussion about, appropriately so, deals with the terrible backlog that we have seen in processing claims. What I think has not been discussed enough is the fact that finally, and I can't tell you why this didn't happen 10, 20 years ago, when the rest of the world was going from paper to paperless, the VA at least said, we are going to do what should have been done a long time ago. And there have been ups and downs in the process. As you all know, VA Secretary Shinseki has stated by the end of 2015, all benefits will be processed within 125 days with a 98% accuracy rate. And it is my intention to make sure, working with the VA, our committee will be monitoring that. We have some language in legislation to make sure that he is public about what's going on. I think the bottom line there, and there's just a press release out today from the VA, they are making progress. They are making progress. And we're going to just watch them very closely and work with them to see that we achieve the Secretary's very ambitious goal. In my lifetime, one of the disgraces that I have seen, and I think many of you have also observed, is that throughout this country we have seen men and women who have fought to defend this country sleeping out on the streets of America. And it's not only homelessness, it's all of the associated problems with homelessness. President Obama and the Secretary have decided to attack that problem, and in fact we are making some progress. Between 2009 and 2012, the VA has reduced the population of homeless veterans by 17%. More needs to be done, and we have legislation in that works with community organizations and others to do that. Our goal, of course, is to make sure that no veteran in this country is sleeping out on the streets. Economically, as a nation, everybody here knows that we're living in really tough times. Real unemployment is not 7.2%. It's really counting those people who have given up looking for work and are working part-time when they want to work full-time. It is close to 14%. So it's a difficult economic climate. Legislation has been passed, and we're going to continue moving forward on making sure that when men and women defend this country and they come home, that there are decent jobs available to them. One of the most important things, obviously, that the VA does is provide health care to over 6 million veterans. In my view, the VA integrated health care system is, in fact, one of the best health care systems in this country, and I think most veterans appreciate it. Can we do better? We absolutely can. And that's constant vigilance and oversight. That we've got to deal with the problems that are there, and we've got to make the system even better. One of the areas that I am focusing on is that there are many, many veterans around this country who would like to access VA health care but are unable to do that for a variety of reasons, most often because they're quote-unquote too rich. So they're above the income eligibility level. To make the matter even more confusing is what the VA now does is say that if somebody lives in one county and somebody lives in the next county, we see this in Vermont, that because somebody has determined that the cost of living in county X is higher than it is in county Y, the income eligibilities are different, which creates a very confusing pattern of many, many hundreds of different income eligibilities all over this country. So if you're in California, you can't even, it must be virtually impossible to tell whether somebody's eligible for VA. We intend to, simplify that system by saying that the highest income eligibility will be the eligibility for that whole state. It makes it simpler, it makes it easier for those of us who want to bring more people into the VA to be able to do so, and I think that is the direction we should go. When we talk about health care in general in this country, one of the areas we don't talk a whole lot about is dental care. I'm chairman of a subcommittee that deals with dental care. It is a crisis all over this country. It is a crisis for veterans right now. As you know, you have to be 100% service disability, with 100% service disability, or have serious oral problems as a result of military action. I think we should expand that. So we're working on some pilot projects that would, for the first time, allow non-service connected folks to begin to get some dental care within the VA. What we are learning as a nation is that we save money when we keep people healthy. This is especially true in areas like diabetes, which is becoming an epidemic in this country and costing us hundreds of billions of dollars. We are going to we have legislation which will expand disease prevention, make it easier for veterans to access physical fitness centers in one way or another in order to keep healthy. Keeping people healthy is a lot better and a lot less expensive than amputating toes or legs. Another area issue that has recently surfaced, which clearly is of concern to everybody in this room, is that in this recent shutdown, many of us were very, very anxious that we were, I don't know, a week, 10 days away from seeing a situation where disabled vets would not get their payments and pensions would not go out. And that is clearly not acceptable. My view is that advanced budgeting has worked in terms of healthcare. I think that was a major advance that many of the veterans organizations have fought for many years. I think it has proved successful. I want to see that expanded to the entire VA. We are going to be doing a hearing in December with General Hickey to get an assessment of where they are in terms of the claims process. We're going to do a mock-up also in December to bring forth some of the pieces of legislation areas that I have mentioned to you. So bottom line here is that we owe a debt of gratitude to the veterans community that can never be repaid. Simply, if somebody's life is radically altered in war, there's nothing you can do. Not all the money in the world is going to really change that. But we have the moral obligation to do everything that we can to make those lives as good as they possibly can be. And that's what Veterans Day 2013 means to me, and I know it means that to all of you.